Well, when we say start, I think we should open it up with your apology to me for hurting my feelings. Um, if on the last episode I was praising Coach Malone, and Derek cut me off, and it's been a sore spot in our relationship so far. So, Derek, this is a great time for you to explain yourself, sir.
So my argument was that Jared Bednar is a better coach than Michael Malone, and so far Bednar is 3-1 in the games that he's played in the bubble. I don't know exactly what Malone is, but I do know that Malone has intentionally lost 3 games already in the bubble.
Yeah, I think Malone is now 3-4, and after doing a deep dive on the Google search, Bednar actually is more handsome as well. He looks like the president of a Eastern European country.
I think part of it is like, so 4 years ago, the Avs had the worst season in modern history, which was kept alive because the season got shortened, and so the Red Wings could not finish out their horrible season. So the Avs still hold the title. And then they've made the playoffs 3 years in a row with the hope that maybe they can go one more round each year. They lost in the first round last year. They lost in the second round, or 2 years ago, they lost in the second round last year, and maybe they could go three or to the Stanley Cup this year. And so I think that to me, that's the positives of Bednar. What is it about Malone that makes you feel like he is such a good coach?
Well, we're storylines over just the stats, and like we look at trajectory of both teams. That 3 years ago, neither team were contenders or really exciting. Like it was truly a time where you could just talk about the Broncos quarterback carousel, and that was the only interesting thing. Um, the storyline with Malone is why it's been a redemption arc. Is that for so long we didn't like him for now looking back kind of petty reasons. It's really hard to be a good coach in any sport, but especially the NBA, especially the Western Conference. But Malone has continually improved the Nuggets. This year was going to be kind of hard to tell if the season played out the way, like in full, would the Nuggets have a better record than they did last season? But he's improved them every year and made it to the second round of the playoffs. I don't know if my expectations right now are that the Nuggets now have to get to the Western Conference Finals for this to be a successful season. But really, he's given us all of our favorite players so far. Like he is responsible for Nikola Jokic.
Well, is he though? Because he did not want to play Jokic forever. Where it was clear that Jokic was the better player, he wasn't starting Jokic. This whole year we've been like Michael Porter Jr. needs to play more, and Malone didn't do it until he had to, and then we were all rewarded for thinking that Michael Porter Jr. should play more.
Well, I think Malone is like the stern father, or he's that trope of the mean guy who cares for you. And so by him not playing Jokic when it was clear that he should, it gave Jokic more of an edge. I don't know if Jokic is as clutch if he got coddled by Malone. And I don't know if Michael Porter Jr. is averaging 23 points in the bubble without having to earn every single minute. And that's Malone. And I know Jamal Murray came out with more potential and expectations, and coach has done really well by him.
Well, and I mean, I think we need to see in the playoffs. Like Murray is sort of the key right here. I feel like where if he actually has a good playoffs, because he had a bad playoffs last year, like he had some moments, he would have quarters,
Yeah.
but he didn't put a full game together once in the 2 series.
Yeah, true.
I think that's a big one. I'm with you. I like Malone a lot better, but I don't think he's managed the team well. And the one problem that I have is the offense every year seems to be a little worse. Like continues to stifle what should just be a creative flow of interesting players to try to fit into his system. It happens every year. And we're out of it now because they haven't had a real team. Like the personnel has been all over the place. He had the Bull Plumlee lineup play so many minutes.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying he's a bad coach, but saying he's definitely better than Bednar, and also saying he's definitely better than Bud Black is just it's a huge reach for someone that hasn't hasn't proven it. Like, let's
Oh,
say,
I didn't know this was a 3-man race.
well, I'm just saying Bud Black, the most successful manager in Rockies history,
He's
just
not
doesn't
saying-
even get in the conversation. Also, is
Okay, fair. Well, I don't have the. Well, okay, Bud Black definitely deserves a conversation right now with National League West first place Rockies.
he's already the only manager to get them to the playoffs twice.
That is not. That is a low bar to climb onto the pedestal. But sure. But explain to me more Bednar, because
Yeah.
Bednar, I only have press conferences and not understanding hockey enough to know why is he your front runner as
So
best coach in Denver.
one of the things that was interesting when Bednar took over, so he took over for Waugh because Waugh quit right before the season started. And they had to scramble and find a coach. And they were like, this guy just won the minor league championship for the AHL. Colorado for a long time had this weird flirtation with Columbus where everything Columbus did, the Avs just wanted them. That's why we have Matt Calvert. There are a couple other players over the years that they were on Columbus, who has never really done anything. We want them. And so Bednar was the Columbus affiliate coach. They brought him in, and immediately his system was so interesting to watch in training camp because he really has a puck-moving system where the goal is to get the puck up the ice as fast as possible, which played really well into their speed game. And it's just been sort of a transformation of the whole team from where they went from playing man-to-man defense, which never really worked under Waugh, to having a solid defensive structure, to putting his players in a position to win with the lines. And like the lines, sort of like rotation in basketball, are really where a coach has to figure things out. And he has chosen a lot to split up the top line, which he knows is good, to try to spread out the talent. He made a tough call where they bring in Burakovsky to maybe be that third winger on the top line, move Landeskog down, or a top six winger. It's not going well in the bubble, so he decides to move Burakovsky down to the third line, move Nemestikov up to the first line, who hasn't been on the team very long. He was acquired at the trade deadline, and that worked for a while. And then yesterday, when the Avs were playing the Coyotes, things aren't going well. They score a power play goal. It would make sense for Bednar to go back to having the line spread out because now they don't need the goals. He goes back to the top line. They end up getting the third goal right after all of this and breaks it wide open.
Okay, so like what I'm hearing is Bednar has an adaptability factor.
Yeah.
One that we constantly criticized Malone for is like, you have to change something up here. Okay, from that perspective, and the fact the Avs are number 2 seed in the West, but they're favorites right now to win the Stanley Cup.
They're 5-1 favorites to win the Cup, which is the best in the league. And yeah, I think that you're right. It is that adaptability, and it is just like he's willing to be unconventional when the situation calls for it. He's already announced that he's going to use 2 goalies this weekend. The Avs play a playoff back-to-back, which is unheard of in normal times. And he's already said, we're going to play Grubauer in one game, we're going to play Francouz in another game. No hockey coaches, first of all, announce it, and many would never think about doing that in the playoffs.
And like to try to understand how unconventional that is. Like, one of the most important positions in all of sports is a solid goalie, especially in the playoffs. Is this wisdom or is it madness? And does it help the Avs?
Well, there's a saying in hockey that is, if you have 2 goalies, you have no goalies. That you need to have just one guy who is the king.
Yeah.
And the fact that Bednar has allowed, even through this whole system, to be like, we're going to have 2 goalies, it makes us better. It is against conventional wisdom. It may fail. Like, it may fail spectacularly. Francouz might go in there, be terrible, and then Grubauer is so upset that he loses it all too. But right now, I just think he's hitting all of the right buttons. And, you know, it is hard comparing the styles because you don't have to work the refs as much in the NHL as the NBA. There isn't really that option. You're not on the floor. You're behind a bench, and that's something that Malone has had to work on. And it's not, I think Malone can rise to that level. It's just, we need to see more. Because I still think, like, let's say you put the average NBA coach in there. How good do you think the Nuggets are right now? Are you saying they're not a top 4 seed with this talent?
That's a nasty question. That makes me upset to think about. Okay, from that perspective, well, I don't.
Let's say Alvin Gentry was the Nuggets head coach.
Oh, Alvin Gentry's a good dude. I think the Nuggets are probably a 6 seed. I get like the love affair with Malone is the time passing and the relationships he's developed with players, especially for a small market team that's never going to be great in free agency. I think he's just a personable dude, and our players seem happy to play for him, which especially coming off of the Brian Shaw debacle, where the man banned cell phones and pizza from the locker room. Malone just has like a sternness, but also like a care that you just want to see. He's like a cool principal at a school, and that is not very sophisticated sports analysis, but I don't care. That's the hill that I will die on. But I am really excited to watch the Avs in the bubble, and to see it's been like a meteoric rise from the worst team ever to now, like especially one of the most potent first lines in the game and electric play. Many different personalities, especially if you think of like someone like Kadri, as we talked about previous episodes, that all of them work so well under Bednar, who's an adaptable guy who also just kind of seems like super stoic and not super personable. So I'll step back. I'll accept your apology, but I'll also say it's okay, dude.
I will say this. If both the Avs and the Nuggets lose in the first round this year and next year, both coaches will be fired. So it doesn't matter. Like, as good as we might think they are, both of them will be fired, and Bud Black will still be here if the Rockies don't make the playoffs the next 2 years, unless he decides to quit.
Yeah, okay.
And there's one more thing that we can both agree on. Vic Fangio is the worst of the 4 coaches in Denver right now.
Sure. Well, it's cool that he's worse, not by his own merits, but just because we have better examples, like bigger, better examples. We're in solid hands.